Welcome to the complete story of the Tyrannosaur dinosaurs. This is not a simple chain of one species turning into another, but the entire family. The real giants, the debated names, and even the mistaken ones. No more confusion or fake tyrannosaurs. I've put everything in order for you. Watch until the end, and you'll walk away an expert on the most legendary dinosaur family ever discovered. Let's go! So who were the Tyrannosaurs, and why do they matter so much? Think of them not as one single dinosaur, but as a whole family tree stretching across millions of years. They start deep in the Jurassic, small and feathered, running through forests like oversized turkeys with teeth. Fast forward tens of millions of years, and that same family grows into the giants you know from movies, towering over their ancient worlds. This family is important because it covers the entire story arc of dinosaur history, from humble beginnings to the final chapter. Tyrannosaurs were there. Early on, they were not the rulers. They lived in the shadows of other huge carnivores, but they survived, adapted, and waited. By the late Cretaceous, they stepped into the spotlight, becoming the ultimate prehistoric predators across North America and Asia. And here's the part that makes them legendary. The very last member of this family was alive when that asteroid hit 66 million years ago. Picture it. The sky on fire, the ground shaking, and one of the last tyrannosaurs witnessing the moment that ended the age of dinosaurs. Not just the end of this family, but the end of an entire era. Dramatic, yes, but also unforgettable, and that's why this group is burned into history. What makes tyrannosaurs exciting is how much variety they had. Some were small and quick, darting through floodplains. Others were massive, with crushing bites that no other dinosaur could match. A few had strange crests and ornaments, showing off in ways that went beyond simple hunting. They weren't just giant carnivores, they were innovators, survivors, and sometimes even oddballs. And let's be real, tyrannosaurs are more than just fossils. They are global superstars. From toys on shelves to the biggest scenes in blockbuster movies, this dinosaur family has become the face of prehistory. Everyone knows the king, but not everyone knows the full dynasty. That's why this journey matters. By the end of this video, you'll see the whole cast, not just the celebrity. So buckle up. Across the next chapters, you'll meet the early runners of the Jurassic, the experimental forms that tried new tricks, and finally, the giants that ruled at the very end. About 167 million years ago in England, an early dinosaur linked to the tyrannosaurs walked through lowland forests. It carried a narrow crest on its head, likely used for display, while hunting smaller creatures in its environment. Around 160 million years ago in China, a dinosaur with a tall crest moved through river valleys. Feathers likely covered its body, helping with warmth and display, while it lived as an early member of the Tyrannosaur line. 125 million years ago in China, a giant feathered dinosaur endured freezing forests. Its thick coat held in warmth, letting this massive carnivore thrive in harsh winters and dominate a landscape where cold challenged survival. China, 120 million years in the past, held a dinosaur larger than its earlier relatives. Strong jaws and long legs gave it speed and power, showing the rise of bigger tyrannosaurs on the path toward future giants. In what is now the United States, 96 million years ago, a small but fast dinosaur raced through floodplains. Its light frame and speed marked an early warning of the great tyrannosaurs that would later dominate. China, 86 million years ago, was home to a lean dinosaur built for speed. With long legs and a lighter body, it hunted across broad plains, showing that not all tyrannosaurs were heavy giants. Coastal landscapes of the ancient United States, 80 million years ago, held a massive dinosaur whose name means king of gore. With wide jaws and crushing bite, it foreshadowed the dominance of later giant tyrannosaurs. Canada, 80 million years ago, revealed the earliest known tyrannosaur from that land. Its name can be read as Reaper of Doom, a dramatic label for a dinosaur with sharp, serrated teeth that marked its growing power. A hot floodplain in ancient New Mexico, about 78.5 million years ago, hosted a nearly 9-meter dinosaur marked by a tall ridge atop its skull. That crest likely anchored massive jaw muscles, hinting at a power bite beyond its size. 77 million years ago, on the eastern lands of North America, a large dinosaur ruled its isolated world. At nearly 7 meters long, it hunted alone, showing how tyrannosaurs adapted when cut off from western cousins. 77 million years ago in Canada, a massive dinosaur stretched over 9 meters in length. With deep jaws and thick teeth, it stood as one of the strongest early tyrannosaurs, foreshadowing the later rise of their king. What is now the USA, 75 million years ago, held a medium-sized dinosaur near swamps and rivers. Fossil clues suggest it may have lived in small groups, using speed and teamwork instead of sheer size to thrive. Among the tyrannosaurs, one stood out in what is now Canada for its speed and lighter build. 75 million years ago, this dinosaur used long legs and agility to chase prey, proving that not all members of the line were heavy giants. This tyrannosaur shows a mix of traits, bridging early relatives and later giants. In what is now the USA, 75 million years ago, its bones revealed deep jaws and facial features that connect it closely to others in the line. 75 million years back in what is now the USA, a fierce dinosaur appeared that some call the Destroyer. Long snout, hooked teeth, and strong legs made it stand out, showing how diverse tyrannosaurs were becoming in North America. 74 million years ago, in what is now the USA, this tyrannosaur shared its world with herds of duck-billed dinosaurs. Fossil clues show close encounters, hinting at tense standoffs around carcasses and fierce competition in crowded ancient landscapes. China, 73 million years ago, was home to one of the largest tyrannosaurs ever found outside North America. Bigger than many rivals of its age, this giant showed how the family expanded far beyond the Western world. 70 million years ago, in what is now Mongolia, a slender tyrannosaur stood out with a row of bumps along its snout. Unlike its heavier cousins, this dinosaur was built lighter, showing the family wasn't only about giants. At the same time and place as its close cousin, another tyrannosaur lived, smaller, quicker, and packed with extra teeth. Instead of ruling with bulk, it thrived on speed and agility, showing a different survival strategy within the same land. In that same land, a far larger tyrannosaur rose to dominance. Towering over its cousins, it rivaled the famous king in scale and strength, showing that Asia had its own monarch among dinosaurs 70 million years ago. Back in what is now Canada, 69 million years ago, fossils revealed dozens of tyrannosaurs buried together. This rare evidence suggests they may have lived and hunted in groups, giving these dinosaurs a social edge unlike their solitary cousins. Far to the north, in what is now Alaska, a smaller tyrannosaur ruled 69 million years ago. It faced long winters of darkness and cold, proving this dinosaur family could adapt even to the edge of the ancient world. In Asia, 67 million years ago, lived a tyrannosaur with a strikingly long and narrow snout. Unlike its massive cousins, this dinosaur relied on speed and quick strikes, proving the family included surprising and unusual forms. 67 million years ago, in what is now the USA and Canada, The largest tyrannosaur of them all ruled the land. This giant stood at the very end of the dinosaur age, witnessing fire in the sky and disappearing with the last of its world. Today it reigns as the ultimate king and global superstar. If this legend still excites you, hit like and keep the dynasty alive. Next, a size lineup. We'll place every confirmed kind in one frame, first to last, so differences read instantly. See who rises and who stays compact. Dinosaurs in one view, start to finish. When most people hear Tyrannosaur, they picture a towering monster bigger than a bus. But the truth is, this family came in every size. Let's start small. Early members in the Jurassic were barely the height of a person. Some were around 3 meters long, light on their feet, covered in fuzz, and chasing small prey. Imagine something closer to a giant, sharp-toothed bird than the giant predator you know. Jump forward millions of years, and the family begins to scale up. Mid-sized tyrannosaurs in the Cretaceous reached 6 or 7 meters. These weren't tiny anymore. They were fast, dangerous, and clearly climbing the ranks. They filled the role of serious hunters, taking down larger herbivores and shaping the ecosystems around them. But the peak came at the very end. By the time dinosaurs were close to their final days, Tyrannosaurs had reached their maximum. The biggest stretched over 12 meters, stood taller than a basketball hoop at the hips, and weighed as much as an elephant herd. Their skulls alone could be the length of a person, with teeth like bananas built for crushing bone. That leap from small, bird-like runners to the absolute giant king shows why tyrannosaurs are legendary. Few other dinosaur families went through such an incredible transformation in scale. From ankle-high early forms to the heavyweight champions that ruled the end of the Mesozoic. Their story is one of growth, power, and survival. So when you hear the word Tyrannosaur, don't just think of the giant. Think of the full family, from the little sprinting hunters to the king that closed the dinosaur age. That size journey is what made them unforgettable. Quick note, the game I used doesn't include every model, so I created illustrations for the missing ones. Now we'll line up all confirmed dinosaurs in order and show the whole arc from first to last. Up next. Let's rewind. Our story starts in Siberia, where a light build suggests quick dashes after small prey by rivers. This isn't just a dinosaur. It's a blueprint for speed before brute force ever took over. All right, moving on. Now imagine this. Western Europe in the Jurassic, where hip and skull fragments told of narrow jaws and long legs. Likely a nimble tracker along shorelines. Among dinosaurs, it marks early steps towards speed. Guess what site is found? In the American West, a patchwork of tail and hip bones, with grooves for muscles. That setup favored burst from cover across floodplains. Among dinosaurs, it previewed tactics built on acceleration. Okay, next dinosaur. 150 million years ago, in England, a small tyrannosaur tried to carve out a place in a world still ruled by other giant dinosaurs. It wasn't yet a heavyweight, but it marked the early rise of the family. Living in forests and floodplains, it showed the first steps toward the legendary line that would one day dominate. 125 million years ago in England, a different kind of tyrannosaur appeared. Long arms and a lighter frame made it unusual compared to the famous giants that came later. It sprinted through woodlands, showing how varied this dinosaur family could be. Frosted hills of northeast China bristled with ferns. Feathers cloaked its body, and sharp ambushes drove mammals into cover 125 million years ago. Cold winds turned this small dinosaur into a survivor. Dried basins of northern China spread beneath burning sun. This predator moved across dunes, and sudden charges drove herds into confusion 110 million years ago. That pressure turned a mid-sized dinosaur into a feared pursuer. 92 million years ago, in what is now New Mexico, a mid-sized tyrannosaur prowled forests and river valleys. It wasn't the top hunter yet, but filled an important gap, fast, alert, and already showing traits that would define the family's future. Open plains of Central Asia stretched beneath stormy skies. It advanced with keen senses, and sharp bites put rivals at risk 90 million years ago. Those skills drove a rising dinosaur toward apex status. Floodplains of northern China swelled with summer storms. This predator strode through tall reeds, and crushing bites put prey down 72 million years ago. That force turned one dinosaur into a dominant threat of its land. Forested coasts of the American East faced pounding waves. It burst from thickets, and slashing claws drove panic through herds 67 million years ago. That ferocity made this dinosaur a nightmare of its shorelines. Final line of the most famous dinosaur family. Let's go! Not every name linked to this family turned out to be real. Some were just labels without full proof, some were doubtful creatures, and others were renamed or moved to different groups. A few were even mistakes, placed here by error. These cases show how science keeps changing as new fossils and better studies appear. In the early 90s, bones from China were linked to a new predator. But the fossils were too incomplete. Without enough clear features, scientists could not confirm it as a real species, leaving its name without official standing. Another set of bones from China was once given a new predator name, but the material was very poor. With so few details to study, experts decided it could not be confirmed as a valid type of dinosaur. Fossil remains from eastern China were once tied to a new carnivore dinosaur, yet the evidence was thin and unclear. Later research showed the material could not stand on its own, so the name was left without recognition. Back in the 19th century, a single tooth was enough to suggest a new predator, but later studies showed it was far too vague to tell anything certain, and the name slowly faded from scientific use. Okay, next invalid dinosaur. When first announced, this fossil was praised as a tiny early member of the Tyrannosaurs from ancient times. Later tests revealed the bones were much younger than claimed, showing it was only a juvenile of another dinosaur, not a separate name at all. A famous skull once looked like proof of a smaller tyrannosaur living beside giants. But many experts now argue it was just a young stage of Tyrannosaurus itself, leaving the debate unresolved and still fueling arguments today. Fragments from Montana were once given a dramatic new name and linked to the Tyrannosaurs. Later reviews showed those bones matched Tyrannosaurus, so the extra label was dropped as a junior synonym and no longer considered valid. At first, these slim bones carried a bold new name, hinting at a separate predator. Later research compared details and showed they belonged to an already known giant, so the newer label was abandoned in favor of the older one. In the 1950s, a new dinosaur name was introduced from fragmentary remains in Mongolia. Later research showed those bones belonged to an already known tyrannosaur, so the extra label was dismissed as a junior synonym and dropped from use. In the early 2000s, a striking dinosaur skull from Mongolia was given a fierce new title. Later studies revealed it was not a distinct form at all, but the same tyrannosaur already recognized under a different name. A handful of bones from China led to a proposed dinosaur decades ago. Since then, experts have argued over its place, with some linking it to young forms of larger hunters and others leaving the name in constant dispute. Old bones from northeastern China once carried a bold new name, yet the material was limited and offered no clear traits. Later studies left it uncertain, and today it sits as a debated carnivore rather than a confirmed identity. Leg bones, once thought to belong to a dinosaur of the Tyrannosaur family, were given a separate title. Later analysis showed the fossils were a mix from different animals, so the name was judged doubtful and set aside. Bones from New Jersey were once announced as a new dinosaur and placed within the Tyrannosaur line. Later reviews revealed the fossils were a confusing mix from more than one animal, so the name was judged doubtful and abandoned. In the 1970s, a dinosaur from Central Asia was described as part of the Tyrannosaur family. Later studies reclassified the remains into a different raptor lineage, leaving the original link to tyrannosaurs no longer accepted. Fossils from northern China were once described as a new dinosaur within the Tyrannosaur line. Later research showed the remains belonged to another branch of giant carnivores, and the original connection to tyrannosaurs was no longer accepted. Fossils from Thailand were once introduced as a new dinosaur, thought to be an early tyrannosaur. Later studies placed the bones into another group of meat eaters, and the original link to tyrannosaurs was eventually dropped. In northern Mexico, scattered dinosaur remains were once tied to the Tyrannosaur family. The fossils were too incomplete to show clear links, leaving its position disputed and still uncertain in ongoing research today. A century ago, bones from Europe were described as a new dinosaur and linked with the Tyrannosaur family. Later studies reassigned the fossils to another branch of large carnivores, and the original placement among tyrannosaurs was set aside. The story of tyrannosaurs is never finished. Each month, discoveries change what we know. A dinosaur seen as valid today may be questioned tomorrow, and new names appear all the time. I want you to join the discussion. Tell me in the comments which member of this family is your favorite and what you'd like me to cover in more depth. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I read every comment and reply after spending more than 30 days building this video for you.